are joined tonight by Dr. Mark Brackett, who is the director of the Health, Emotion, and Behavior Laboratory at Yale. And Doctor, I think we're going to have a chance to really kind of expand on what we just heard there at the table. You developed something called the ruler approach in terms of another phrase called emotional literacy, I guess. Can you first kind of get us up to speed on what is the ruler? Because that's something educators in the audience might be aware of because it's used across the country. Kind of explain to us what that is and what emotional literacy is.
Sure. Well, let me start off by saying the lab that I now direct, called the Health, Emotion, and Behavior Laboratory, really believes that our nation has been remiss in providing children with a solid emotion education. And so when we think about what is an emotion education, we've developed something that we call the ruler approach. And ruler stands for 5 critical skills. The first is teaching kids and the adults involved in their education how to recognize emotions. So what are the emotions that I am feeling versus the emotion that the other person is feeling? That's the R. The U is teaching them to understand where these emotions came from, what we call the understanding of emotion. The L is giving them that rich vocabulary so they can describe that full range of emotion. And then the next letter is E in ruler, and that has to do with the expression of emotion. And finally, and probably most importantly, what we want to do is teach children and adults the strategies for regulating emotions. So in essence, ruler is about recognizing, understanding, labeling, expressing, and regulating emotion.
So that's something that's important for the kids. How important is it for the adults to be able to do for themselves and for the kids?
So our belief and the way we bring our programs to school systems is that we have to bring the adults on board first. That adults have to have the belief system that emotions matter, that they're important for student thinking, that they're important for student learning, that they're important for students' mental health and the relationships that they have. And when we can shift teachers and school leaders' belief systems, we have just so much more success in schools.
How important is their individual health, the educator, the parents? How important is that in the mental health of the kids, the emotional health of the kids?
Yes, so just like your other presenters earlier, speakers, we really believe strongly that the adults have to model healthy emotional responses to situations. So if the adult doesn't have the strategies to regulate his or her emotions, it's going to be very difficult for that person, whether it be a parent or a teacher, to teach those skills effectively to children.
Okay, speaking of strategies, can you give us adults some strategies on how to help our kids, how to recognize, how to help them, in addition to modeling for them?
Sure. So we take it to a deeper level by providing what we call tools, or anchor tools, to our program. One tool, for example, is called the mood meter. And what that tool does is it provides a platform for children to plot their emotions, to understand if they're feeling very pleasant or unpleasant, or if they have lots of energy or lower amounts of energy. Mm-hmm. And then they convert that into a word so that they can become more emotionally literate, as you said earlier.
Your proximity to Newtown is what, maybe 45 minutes or so from where you are? I'm curious if, have you seen any ripple effects in your community with kids or with the adults?
Yeah, I mean, I think our nation has been hit by this. And first I want to say that our hearts go out to the children and adults who lost their lives, and to the teachers and children and families in Newtown. And obviously the emotions that arise from these kinds of tragedies are overwhelming, they're complex, they're ever-changing. Today I was in a local school district, and they had canceled all their professional development because teachers were just overwhelmed by their own emotions. And again, that speaks to the real importance to making sure that we are training the adults that are involved in our children's education, these critical, as we say, ruler skills.
So what would you like to make sure that is in the conversation? As we're talking tonight, we're using this as a catalyst to talk about the well-being of all of our children. The probabilities are not great that this will happen to one of our kids. It's, when you do the math, it's less than Powerball. But what do you hope is in this conversation?
What we hope is that we can provide instructional strategies and tools to schools to create an emotionally healthy climate so that children do feel safe and welcome in school, and that there's nothing strange about talking about your feelings. So the last thing we'd want either adults or children to do is to suppress their feelings when it comes to a tragedy like this. We need to create environments where children feel safe and valued and welcome to talk about their feelings, and where adults also have systems in place to have the opportunity to talk about their feeling states and learn from each other and support each other.
Easier said than done, some parents might say, in different communities, depending on what their struggles they're up against. Encourage parents and encourage educators. What are some small steps they can take to see that happening? Because, you know, a lot of parents are maybe working 2 minimum wage jobs, and they don't have the time to go to the doctor with their child, and unless something's bleeding or they're not breathing.
Well, I always say to my friends and family members, if someone calls you up and they say, I'm having a really bad day, you don't hang up the phone on them. What you do is you say, you know, tell me more, you know, talk to me. So we have to just create the space for children and adults to talk about their feelings and not react to it as if it's something strange. Because in our model and the way we do our work in schools is we preach that all emotions are valid. So anger is real, and sadness, of course, and devastation and despair in the current situation is real. And we shouldn't ask children to hide those feelings or suppress them. We should give them the opportunity to talk, give them the right words to have that conversation, and very importantly, give them the strategies that they need to regulate it effectively so they can live a healthy life.
Did what you saw in Newtown change any of your thinking, or change any of your approaches, or shake any of your foundations about what you believe, or anything like that? I don't know. Are you a different professional now in any way?
Yeah, of course, you know, we're all affected by this, and it's hard to even process what happened. But you know, in many ways, we just feel more strongly about schools taking the kind of work that we do seriously. We just want to make sure that, again, the children have the skills they need to navigate their personal lives, their academic lives, their home lives. And what we do know is that there has been no formal institution for this kind of training. You know, we know that if you want to play an instrument, you can go take a course. If you want to take karate, you get a yellow belt, then a black belt. Mm-hmm. But where do you get a black belt in emotional intelligence? And our job is to make sure that every child gets the emotion education that he or she deserves.